There's a point in your life, and you'll know when it comes, where it hits you. Your energy isn't just important, it's everything. Not money, not time, but that quiet, invisible force inside you that shapes how you think, what you do, and how steady you stay when the world starts spinning off its axis. Once you see it clearly, everything else clicks into place. You stop running around trying to please everyone. You stop explaining yourself to people who aren't even listening. You stop giving away tiny pieces of yourself just to avoid conflict. Instead, you start guarding your inner life like it's sacred, because it is. Not because you're cold or distant, but because you finally understand how rare peace is. The Stoics got this way before we ever put it into modern language. They taught that the strongest person isn't the loudest or the most dominant, it's the one who can master themselves, who stays grounded while others sway, who knows how to shield their inner flame from every gust of chaos, drama, or insult. So, no, this isn't about cutting people off with rage. It's about choosing serenity with wisdom. It's about becoming that person who walks into a room with a calm presence that doesn't beg for attention, because it already commands it, who doesn't raise their voice to be heard or argue to be respected. Because when you learn to protect your energy, you're not being selfish, you're being sane. 1. Guard your peace, like it's sacred ground. There's something powerful about silence, not the kind that feels awkward between strangers, but the kind that lives inside you when nothing shakes you, when your mind is clear, your breath is steady, and your heart isn't racing to match someone else's chaos. That silence, it's a form of strength, and in a world addicted to noise, it's become incredibly rare. That's why your peace, your internal clarity, isn't something you give out freely. It's not a park bench, it's sacred ground. And truthfully, not everyone gets to walk on it. Most of us were raised thinking that being nice means being available, that kindness means letting anyone and everyone unload, vent, insult, demand, all while we understand. But that's not Stoicism. That's self-neglect disguised as virtue. The Stoics didn't see peace as something passive. To them, peace was the reward of boundaries, not enforced with anger, but with clarity. You don't have to shout to protect your peace. You just need to stop offering it up to people who treat it like it's cheap. Think of your peace like a garden. The more you let people stomp through it, the harder it is for anything to grow. Every time you waste your energy cleaning up after emotional messes, that's energy you're not using to grow what actually matters. Your focus, your self-worth, your purpose. And here's the kicker. It's not always the loud, dramatic people who drain you. It's the subtle ones, the ones who ask for your time but ignore your value, the ones who dress up manipulation as connection. They don't visit your garden to nurture it. They're there to pull up the roots. And here's the Stoic truth that stings. Just because someone wants access to you doesn't mean they're entitled to it. Peace doesn't come from being liked. It comes from living in alignment with your values, your priorities, and your limits. And when someone disturbs that alignment, you don't owe them anything. You don't need a speech. You don't need to justify your choice. In fact, the quieter your exit, the louder your message. This mindset isn't about isolation. It's about protection. You can love someone from a distance. You can respect them and still say, "Not here. Not in this space. Not in my mind." You can be kind without being a doormat. You can be generous without being drained. The Stoics knew energy is a finite resource, like money, like time, like focus. And if you're not choosing who gets access to your energy, then you're surrendering it by default. Start with this. Visualize your inner world like sacred ground. Walk through it in your mind. Know where you feel calm. Know what makes you restless. Most importantly, know who you become when you let your boundaries slip. Because that version of you, the tired, resentful, scattered version, that's not your best self. That's your warning sign. So the next time someone brings chaos to your doorstep, ask, would I let this energy into my home? If the answer is no, then don't let it into your mind. 2. Don't attend every emotional battle. You're invited to. Humans have this weird tendency. We think that just because someone starts something, we have to finish it. They insult us. We respond. They gossip. We defend. They provoke. We prove ourselves. But here's the truth. Not every emotional invitation deserves your RSVP. Some people live for conflict. They feed on control, attention, and chaos. And the moment you react, they win. Because they never wanted peace. They wanted a piece of you. The Stoics warned us about this a long time ago. Epictetus said, if someone succeeds in provoking you, realize that your mind is complicit in the provocation. Let that sink in. He didn't say the other person caused your reaction. He said you chose it. You didn't get dragged into drama. You walked in. Maybe not consciously, but you did. And the second you realize this, everything changes. You stop getting pulled in. You observe without absorbing. You witness someone else's emotional storm and don't feel responsible to match it or fix it. Because every single day you'll meet people who bait you. Some will do it with arrogance, others with guilt. Some will mask insults under fake politeness. And if you're not conscious, you'll fall right into the trap of trying to explain yourself to people who never wanted to understand you in the first place. And what does it cost? Time, focus, clarity, and most of all, your peace. But what if you didn't react? What if instead you paused? What if you used a kind of emotional judo, not meeting force with force, but letting it pass through you? Think of arguments like punches. Most people swing back. A Stoic steps aside. They don't engage unless it matters. And ego is not a good reason. There's incredible strength in staying still while someone else is loud, in choosing calm when someone's trying to get a rise out of you, because suddenly they lose control. Their whole plan depended on you losing your control, and you didn't. That's power. That's poise. And no, this doesn't mean being passive. It means being strategic. It's not cowardice. It's wisdom. The strongest people aren't the ones who shout the loudest. They're the ones who know when silence says more. When leaving a fight preserves more than staying to win it. So here's your practice. Next time your emotions start to spike, pause. Take a breath. Ask, is this worth my peace? Not your pride, not your ego, your peace. Because here's the harsh reality. No one will refund you for the hours you spend arguing with people committed to misunderstanding you. But you will feel the cost in your mind, in your creativity, in your sleep. Remember, peace isn't earned in the noise. It's preserved by stepping out of it. That's not weakness, that's wisdom. And sometimes the most powerful move is no move at all. 3. Say no and don't explain it. There's a quiet kind of strength that a lot of people never develop. It's the strength to say no, without guilt, without excuses, without a 3-paragraph justification, just a calm, clear no. And yet, for most of us, that feels impossible. Why? Because somewhere along the way we were taught that our worth comes from how agreeable we are, how much we say yes, how much we go along, even when it costs us ourselves. But here's the Stoic reality. Every time you say yes to something that drains you, you're saying no to something that could fulfill you. Stoicism teaches us to act from reason, not compulsion. And people-pleasing, it's not rational, it's not noble, it's fear, dressed up as kindness, fear of being disliked, fear of disappointing someone, fear of confrontation. So we say yes to things we don't want to do. We show up to events we dread. We answer calls we're not emotionally ready for. We lend energy we don't have. And then we wonder why we're exhausted, burned out, invisible. It's because each guilt-based yes chips away at your integrity, until one day you can't tell where your real self ends and where everyone else's expectations begin. That's why learning to say no isn't just a skill. It's self-respect. It's how you draw invisible lines around your emotional real estate. And here's the key. You don't owe anyone an essay. You don't have to sugarcoat it. You don't need to offer a dozen justifications. No, I can't. That's enough. No, I need time for myself. Still enough. When someone demands a reason for your boundary, it's not because they don't understand, it's because they don't accept it. And if someone doesn't respect your no, they don't deserve access to your yes. In the Stoic worldview, virtue isn't just in what you give, it's in what you protect. Your time, your focus, your emotional bandwidth. These are finite. You wouldn't hand someone your last $20 just because they ask nicely. So why hand them your attention, your energy, your peace? Every time you say no with quiet confidence, you reinforce a truth. You are not here to be consumed. You're not here to be constantly available. You're here to live in alignment with your values, your rhythm, your pace. And yes, some people will call you cold. Some will say you've changed. Let them. Because what they're really saying is, I liked it better when I could take from you without limits. You'll feel the pull to explain, to soften your tone. But over time, that need fades, and something else replaces it, something powerful. You begin to feel stronger in your silence. You realize that no isn't rejection, it's redirection. It's choosing your peace over pressure, your clarity over their confusion. It's choosing you. So next time you feel that familiar guilt, that reflex to say yes when your body wants to say no, pause. Ask yourself, am I about to betray myself just to keep someone else comfortable? If the answer is yes, then don't. Say no, calmly, quietly, no explanation required. You don't owe anyone access to your energy, and the moment you stop apologizing for protecting it is the moment you reclaim it. 4. Detach from their moods. They're not yours to fix. It's exhausting, trying to keep the peace in someone else's storm, walking on eggshells, weighing every word, filtering your emotions through someone else's reactions. It's like living inside their emotional weather. Sunny one moment, stormy the next, and you're just trying to stay dry without an umbrella. So you shrink, you adjust, you stop being you and start becoming a version of yourself that's focused entirely on keeping them calm. But here's what the Stoics would say: their chaos is not your responsibility. Their suffering, not yours to carry. Their outbursts, not your fault. We are not emotional janitors. We're not here to clean up after every person who refuses to manage their own emotions. Yes, compassion is beautiful. But when it turns into emotional entanglement, it becomes a trap. Stoicism doesn't say don't care. It says care with boundaries. Support without losing yourself. Love without self-erasure. That starts with detachment, not coldness, but wise separation. You can sit beside someone without being dragged into their storm. You can listen without absorbing. You can witness without rescuing. Because some people don't want support, they want someone to co-sign their chaos. They want you to join them in the whole, instead of letting you help them out of it. And when you refuse, they'll say you're insensitive, cold, uncaring. Let them. Because their projection is not your truth. You are not cruel for choosing not to collapse. You are not distant for protecting your calm. You are awake. Detachment is saying, I see you, I hear you, but I don't need to carry this. And that choice, it's freedom. Because if you keep adjusting your emotions to regulate theirs, you'll forget what calm even feels like. So how do you start? First, recognize the signs. Do you feel drained after every interaction? Do you feel responsible for their happiness? Do you feel guilty when you set a boundary? That's not failure, that's overfunctioning. Then, set the line. Not with a big announcement, just stop showing up the same way. When they complain, don't dive in. When they guilt trip, don't explain. When they sulk, don't chase. Just stay still. Let their emotions pass like clouds. Noticed, but not absorbed. This isn't easy, especially if you've spent years being the fixer. But you have to ask yourself, what has that role cost me? Because no amount of overgiving will fix someone who's committed to misery. No level of sacrifice will bring peace to someone who hasn't found it in themselves. So instead of overextending, try presence with limits. Observe instead of react. Support without surrender. And when guilt creeps in, remind yourself, I can care without carrying. I can love without losing myself. Their storm is theirs. And you choose to stay in the calm. Not because you're heartless, but because you've learned something most people never do. Peace is not a luxury. It's your baseline, and it's your job to protect it. 5. Recognize energy vampires and walk away quietly. Not every drain on your energy is loud. Some come wrapped in smiles. A friend who always has a problem but never asks about yours. A coworker who always needs to vent but somehow sucks the joy out of every room. A family member who never raises their voice but whose passive aggression hums like a background alarm in your nervous system. These are energy vampires. Not in the fantasy sense, in the real psychological sense. People whose presence costs more than it gives. Maybe they don't mean to. Maybe it's how they cope. Maybe chaos is their identity. But intent doesn't erase impact. You leave interactions with them feeling heavier. Not because of what they said, but because of what they left behind in your mind. You replay the conversation. You carry their worries. You question your own choices. That's the sign. They weren't there to connect. They came to unload. The Stoics taught us to observe the impact others have on our internal world, to defend the inner citadel, not just from violence or anger, but from subtle corrosion. That's why quiet exits are often the wisest. You don't need to make a speech. You don't need to get closure. You don't even need them to understand, because they won't. They'll say you've changed. They'll say you're distant. And they'll be right. You have changed. You finally realized your energy is finite, not a communal resource. And yes, there's fear in walking away silently. That voice in your head will whisper, you owe them something, a goodbye, an explanation. But that voice, it's not your conscience. It's guilt in disguise. And guilt is a terrible guide for personal growth. You don't owe continued access to people who refuse to grow. You don't owe your light to someone choosing darkness. And you definitely don't owe another round of exhaustion just to seem polite. So stop feeding the loop. Don't argue. Don't fix. Don't stay to explain. Just start disengaging. Fewer replies, less emotional availability, more time for you. Let the distance grow. Not as punishment, but as peace. Because you don't need their noise to feel needed anymore. You've chosen your own restoration. And that's the most stoic choice of all. 6. Control your inputs, not just your surroundings. When we think about protecting our energy, we usually think about people. Who we cut out, who we let in, who drains us. But there's another force shaping our inner world, and it's quieter, more subtle. It's your inputs. What you watch, what you listen to, what you scroll past at 1 a.m. when your brain is too tired to guard itself. These things, they don't just pass through. They embed. They wire your nervous system. They shape your mood. They tell your brain what to focus on, fear, crave, or imitate. The Stoics understood this long before we had screens. They practiced attention like it was a discipline. Because it is. They believed your thoughts become your emotions become your actions, and your actions, they create your life. In today's world, where everything competes for your attention, the mind becomes a sponge. And if you're not selective, you'll soak up chaos. Headlines engineered to trigger fear, feeds designed to provoke envy, voices that reward outrage instead of understanding. You end up reactive, not because your life is chaotic, but because your inputs are. So what do? You curate. Not just your physical space, but your mental one. Ask yourself, what am I feeding my mind? Who are you letting speak into your thoughts through podcasts, shows, music, even background noise? Because everything you consume leaves a residue. Some of it energizes, some of it drains, some reminds you of who you want to be, some pulls you further away. Let's be honest, doom scrolling isn't just a habit, it's a slow leak in your peace. The more you consume without discernment, the more cluttered your mind becomes. And a cluttered mind can't create, can't focus, can't rest. It just reacts, chases dopamine, lives on autopilot. And when that happens, no one's stealing your energy, you're leaking it yourself. So how do you stop it? You become a gatekeeper. You start treating your mind like a home, not a hallway. You choose what enters. You build routines around intentional input, books that teach, not just entertain, conversations that uplift, not deplete, environments that recharge, not drain. You turn down the background noise that's been shaping your emotions. You stop dumping mental trash into your own garden and expecting peace to grow. And no, this doesn't mean cutting out all entertainment. You don't need to become a monk. But it does mean awareness, because every scroll is a choice. Every video is a message. Every sound, image, sentence, a seed planted in your subconscious. And you get to decide what takes root. So here's a quiet challenge. Today, audit your inputs. Not just who you're around, but what you're absorbing. Mute, unfollow, delete, pause, whatever brings clarity. Build a mental diet that nourishes, not numbs. Because your energy doesn't just depend on the world around you, it depends on what you invite into your mind. And that means protecting every door, even the ones you open with your thumbs. 7. Stop trying to convince people who don't want to understand. There's a unique kind of exhaustion that doesn't come from doing too much. It comes from resisting too hard, from trying to change someone's mind, trying to explain yourself over and over to someone who's already decided not to listen, trying to drop truth in front of someone who's committed to misunderstanding you. And let's be real, you've probably been there. You walk away from a conversation feeling drained, not clearer, because what you gave, your patience, your logic, your time, it landed nowhere. The Stoics would remind you, not every mind is ready. Not every argument needs your voice. Not every person is open, no matter how obvious the truth seems. We live in a world where beliefs are armor, where disagreement is war, where identity is so fragile that even the possibility of being wrong feels like death. And when someone's identity is built on negativity or victimhood, challenging it won't feel like help. It'll feel like an attack. So what do? You try harder. You explain more clearly. You raise your voice just a little, hoping the message finally lands. But it doesn't. Because the issue was never clarity, it was willingness. The Stoics didn't preach constant confrontation. They taught detachment. Freedom from the illusion that you can or should change every mind. Marcus Aurelius put it best. You have power over your mind, not outside events. Realize this and you will find strength. That includes the minds of others. Their inability to grow, not your failure. Their reaction to your boundary, not your burden. Every time you fight to be understood by someone who doesn't want to understand, you burn your own peace for nothing. So here's your shift. Stop asking, how do I make them see? Start asking, is it even my role to try? And if the answer is no, walk away. Not from a place of bitterness, but from wisdom. Let them keep their narrative. Let them win the argument. Because you weren't trying to win, you were trying to help. And now that you know they don't want help, you move on. You let silence do what arguments never could. And no, that's not weakness, that's strength. Because you're not here to spend your life correcting every misunderstanding or fighting every battle of ego. You're here to live, to protect your spirit, to choose your peace over someone else's pride. So next time you feel the urge to argue, pause. Ask yourself, will this lead to growth or just more resistance? If the answer is resistance, let it go. Because peace isn't found in convincing others, it's found in not needing to. 8. Silence is your strongest shield. In today's world, being reactive is glorified. Speak up fast, clap back harder, defend yourself immediately. But Stoicism teaches something else, something quieter, a different kind of strength. The strength to not respond, the strength to hold stillness when others are loud. Silence isn't weakness, it's presence. It's the conscious decision to value your energy more than your ego. Epictetus said, it's not what happens to you, but how you react to it that matters. And sometimes, the most powerful reaction is none at all. When someone insults you, they're not looking for truth. They're looking for a reaction. And when you give it, they win. Not because they were right, but because they got to control your peace. But when you choose silence, you deny them the chaos they crave. Not passive-aggressive silence, not performative silence, but genuine, self-possessed quiet. That kind of silence is a boundary. It says, I see what you're trying to do, but I choose stillness over struggle. It's not bottling things up. It's recognizing when words are just noise. It's knowing the difference between expression and ego. Imagine being in a conversation where someone tries to twist your words, raise the volume, pull you into a reaction. The old you might have explained, defended, raised your voice. But the new you breathe, you hold still. You let the storm rage and you don't enter it. And yes, some people will say, you're cold, you're avoiding, you've changed. Let them. Because what they call cold, the wise call calm. What they call indifference, the wise call discernment. What they call silence, the wise know as power. Every insult you don't respond to, every unnecessary battle you don't fight, every time you choose stillness over drama, that's a win. Not over them. Over you, the past you, the reactive you, the drained you, and in its place, presence, composure, strength that doesn't need to shout to be real. So, next time chaos knocks, don't open the door. Let your silence answer. Because peace never yells, it just is. A truly powerful soul isn't the one who controls every situation. It's the one who learns to remain calm when nothing is in their control. The one who doesn't let the noise of the world drown out the whisper of their own truth. So ask yourself, what would your life look like if you stopped giving energy to what doesn't deserve it? Have you felt this shift in your own journey? Drop your story in the comments. Someone out there might need to read it today. And if this message spoke to you, leave a like. It helps me share more of what matters. Thanks for being here until the very end.